Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are reporting in from. It's awesome to be presenting to you today. Today's presentation is on image optimizations in Drupal CMS, focused on responsive images. My name is Philip Stier. I'm a senior developer at Atten Design Group. I'm currently based in Denver, Colorado. I've been a developer in the Drupal community for over 10 years. I am an Acquia certified Drupal developer and am the current secretary on the board for the Drupal Colorado nonprofit organization. You can reach me at philip@atten.io. Before we dive in today, because I am a developer, I do need to translate a little bit. So some vocabulary that I'll be talking through today is breakpoints. Breakpoints are a certain pixel width at which elements of your website begin to adapt different screen sizes and device widths. There can be multiple of these. There should be multiple of these. There's lots of different devices out there, lots of different screen sizes. So we often use a lot of different breakpoints. Drupal, obviously, is an open source or freely and collaboratively distributed content management system for websites. And then HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and this is used to compose your website's content in its entirety. We'll dive more into that. All right. So let's get a bit more technical here before we get into the Drupal configurations into the Drupal website. Again, HTML is that hypertext markup language that's used to compose your website's content. One of the parts of that language that we'll be taking a look at are called image tags. This is how an image media element is represented in code, as you can see here. As you can see here on my slide. Each of these tags have what are called attributes, and you'll see these attributes marked as SRC and ALT, as you can see here in the this image tag. The source attribute defines where the file is within your website's file system, and the ALT or alternative text attribute is a description of the image for screen readers, SEO, all those kinds of things. So this HTML image tag gives us exactly what we need on any website, but that's about it. Sometimes, if not most or all times nowadays, we need different representations of images based upon the type of device that is being viewed from. This may not make total sense as I explain it, but let's conjure up a website and an image tag in particular and set up the optimizations that we'll be starting to make. So I have an example site here. Let me begin with saying Drupal 10 and Olivero and CK Editor 5 are amazing. If you do not have Drupal 10 or are up to date with Drupal, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of great advancements in the Drupal system nowadays. So I'm going to go to the image field test here. And when I inspect the HTML for this page, and in particular the image tag, let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. You'll see exactly what we've talked about. So we have the SRC or the source attribute. We also have the ALT or the alternative text attribute, along with other attributes that the image tag allows. I won't be diving into those necessarily today, but you can see exactly what my example had. It's showing that this image is within where this image is within the file system, as well as my alternative text. I hope you love the sloths, and you'll see more of this cute little guy as we go along with the presentation. Okay. So image tags can now, with the introduction of HTML5, can now incorporate responsive means to switch images at certain breakpoints. Remember the vocabulary term that we talked about. And this is done with what's called the source set attribute, or the SRC SET attribute. So you can see in my example here where that lives. Simply a set of sources. This is simply a set of sources from which to grab the corresponding image files. Each source receives a screen width measurement at which to be active. So you have several different images, all different sizes, and then each one is active at the, or is displayed at the breakpoint or the pixel width that you define. The image tag source sets are great, but we really need to take this a step further and actually curate not only different resolutions of images, but different sized images, or even different images altogether. And this is what we can do now with HTML5 picture tag, as you can see below. We will be focusing on the picture tags in particular because of the flexibility that it offers over image tags with the source sets. We will be building upon this as we transition into the Drupal content management system. And I'll show you just a short demo here on my example site. Close that. So we have the same image. And when I go and inspect, I can see that it's formatted into this picture tag. Now there's a lot here, and we will be diving into most, if not all of this, and how to set this up in the Drupal content management system so it all gets formatted for you. But you can see here's the picture tag, here's all my sources with their source sets, and we'll dive into all the breakpoints and the pixel densities and all that stuff. All right, so there's in the Drupal content management system, there are modules that that further the functionality of the content management system, and in particular, we'll be looking at the image optimization modules. The first module that we'll be looking at is called the breakpoints module. This is a core Drupal module, so it is available to you right away when setting up a Drupal system. This module integrates the breakpoints.yml file or YAML file as system events that can trigger changes for different breakpoints. We'll be taking a look at this next. The next module is the responsive image module. Again, this is a Drupal core module, so it's available to you right away when setting up a Drupal system. This will allow us to define and ultimately curate those images that we talked about in that picture HTML element. Some other optional modules that you would want to consider, again, are optional, but definitely recommended. From a content editor standpoint, these two modules, the media and the media library module, open up the ability to be able to manage a library of media assets, such as images, videos, etc. Going into my demo sites, I'm going to open up the extend part of the Drupal content management system, and I'm going to go to overview. The first module we'll come across is the breakpoint. You can see again, it's under core. Breakpoint. Scrolling down a little bit more, we have media. Again, optional, media library, again, optional. And then responsive image. Do note that some of these modules require other modules to be active as well in order to work. Drupal will actually automatically enable some of these modules when you enable like the responsive image module for you because they are listed as requirements. Okay, diving right into the breakpoints. And again, when we enable breakpoints, we are making what's called the breakpoints YAML file or YML file active. And this is in order to relay to browsers information of when to switch images. We will start again with this YAML file, which is a human readable file formatted to be ingested by programs such as Drupal. the core breakpoints module, that core breakpoints module, as soon as you enable it, it ships with a default breakpoints configurations. But for our purposes, and quite often customly set in anyways, our theme will define custom breakpoints. And keep it simple. When defining breakpoints and when ultimately creating the image styles that are applied to images at different breakpoints, we want to keep it as simple as possible. With each image style that you create in Drupal, Drupal will be generating a related image file. So we definitely do not want to be generating a ton of images just for one picture element. The breakpoints are defined using CSS media arguments. So you can see in my example here, and I'll dive into another example as well. These read different types of media like screen or print, etc., and use the CSS properties to set specific theming. In this case, we'll use them in a picture tag, in the picture tag we are building as an attribute to define where to change out those images where necessary. We'll also be talking about pixel density. So for those of you using a Retina display, you have double the density of pixels. With the innovation of these high density graphics displays, the source sets themselves include these pixel density settings. I am currently using a MacBook Pro, so the amount of pixels and resolutions that my computer has to offer are double of what maybe a computer with just regular amount of density of pixels has to offer. So we'll get into this breakpoints file. So in my custom theme, let me zoom in. Within my custom theme, I have this breakpoints.yml or YAML file already defined. And the syntax or how this is built is pretty simple. Again, it's human readable, but machine ingestible. So we have a simple machine name for what we want to name our breakpoints configuration as a whole. And then we have each different breakpoint configuration machine name, followed by the label of the breakpoint. Again, the CSS media query. So again, this is reading any device that is at least 480 pixels wide. So that's about a phone size, if not a little bit bigger than a phone size. All the way down. So we've specified then multiple of these breakpoints. I like to name them small, medium, large, extra large, and 2 extra large. This is completely up to you and your theme. But you can see each breakpoint is then defining that CSS media query. So any devices that are 768 pixels wide and above will show any medium-sized images. All the way up to the large breakpoint. So at 992, it switches from medium images to large images, and then so on and so forth, all the way up to your largest breakpoint. Along with this, you'll see the multipliers. Again, these are the pixel densities. So Retina displays will receive this 2x multiplier. So essentially, we'll be wanting to, we'll see, we'll get into this. You'll see 2 different options when adding image styles, one for just the 1x and another for 2x. So we'll be inserting 2 different image styles just for this one breakpoint. All right, getting in the image styles. Going back to what we've learned about the HTML picture tag, we will now be configuring Drupal to create each of our image sources. So for each of the breakpoints that we'll be creating each of our images sources for each of the breakpoints that we've set where necessary. This is where the Drupal content management system helps us out immensely. By uploading one high resolution image, we can automatically generate differently formatted images, which we will then be using in our picture tag element. I've created an image style for each breakpoint where I only want the image to be a certain size width-wise. This is so that I'm not loading large and expensive images where I don't need to, i.e. mobile devices, tablets, you name it. I'll be loading in an appropriately sized image to the size of the device. What is also superb about Drupal is that you can save these sets of configurations that you are making in Drupal to a profile, which then can be used to duplicate all over all of your work that you're doing onto other websites, other Drupal websites in your what's called an install profile. All right, so here, my example, I just set up, again, just a simple base set of image styles. These are more dynamic in a way. They don't have a specified height, but they do have a specified width, again, to incorporate the device widths and settings. This is so that editors can essentially upload an image whatever sized, and the width will be updated, but not, or the width will be updated and the height will just keep its dimensions according to the width. So getting into my example, image styles can be found under configuration media image styles, and you can see that I've already specified several image styles here. We'll be using each of these image styles in our responsive image styles, building that picture tag. Again, the goal here is to switch out the different sized images based on your breakpoints, based on the device width, essentially. So you'll see here that I have more dynamic settings. This is for images usually placed within content areas where, again, that height doesn't really matter. I also have more fixed sizing image styles, and these are for like banners and teaser images where I know there needs to be a specific height throughout each of the breakpoints. Let me just dive into some of the settings here. So when I edit this setting, you can see that it's just scaling the width to my naming convention that I have here. And then also for like the fixed sizing, I have scale and crop, and then this is also defining a height. Cool. All right, so now that we have defined all of our image styles, now that I have defined all my image styles, we are going to connect the dots in Drupal to build out that picture tag element. If you remember that HTML picture 5 element with all the sources and the source sets and the breakpoints and all those kinds of things. I like to build out, again, these dynamic responsive image styles with all the sites that I set up. Again, this will be sure that it only scales the images to the width and leave the height relative to the originally uploaded dimensions. Some of these examples are found in the editor areas, as well as some embedded media through the WYSIWYG. You'll notice that the smaller the situation or the image that I need, the less image styles that I need to set. We only need up to a certain sized image, and then past that point, the image doesn't get any larger. So for like teaser images, or in this, on my slide here, the dynamic fourth column, it's only going to be a fourth column sized image. So I only need it to get up to 480 pixels wide. I don't need to set a image style at the 2x large breakpoint, because it's never going to get larger than 480 pixels wide. Getting into my example, responsive image styles can be found under the same area as image styles. So configuration, media, and then responsive image styles. And you see I already have several set up. Out of the box, as soon as you enable the responsive image, the core responsive image module, there are already responsive image styles set up for you that you can use out of the box, which are pretty neat. In this instance, again, I would like to customize it. I would like to take this a step further. I have specific scenarios in which I need images to react accordingly. So getting to that dynamic full width, you can see as soon as, actually, let me step back a little bit. Yeah. when I add a responsive image style, because I've defined that breakpoints.yml file, that YAML file, I now have my image optimizations or my custom theme listed underneath the breakpoint group. So that's what I'll want to be selecting. And when I do select that, you can see all of the work that we did in that YAML file shows up here in Drupal. So you can see that each breakpoint is listed here along with the pixel density settings. So you'll see 2x extra large, 1x large, 2x large, all the way down to the small. This also features a fallback image style. This I always set as the smallest image available so that worst case scenario, you're serving up the lowest sized image available. All right, get into customizations. So again, a lot of times we'll need to create responsive image styles where we know and want to maintain certain dimensions like teaser images and banners. These we can all configure like we built the dynamic versions, but with specific widths and heights, and introduce not only scaling, but cropping as well, as you saw. Notice that we have a full width image version that we can use for banners and a teaser that we can use for teasers in my example here. Also notice that for the teaser, again, that we're only setting to a specific breakpoint because we only need an image that gets so large. So for teasers, I only needed to get 768 pixels wide. On desktops, teasers are generally set into like a grid. When it collapses to a tablet, which is generally 768 pixels wide vertically, that's as big as we want that image to get, 760 pixels wide. All right, going back to my more customized versions of responsive image styles. You see that I have the image optimizations breakpoint group set. And then for each breakpoint, then I'm setting the image styles that I've created under the image styles in Drupal. So for the 1x pixel density, 2x large image, I'm selecting a single image style, and that's going to be the image style that I created specifically for 2x. So that's 1920 by 1064 pixels wide and high. Going down, extra large. Again, we're setting the extra large. And then for the double density pixel displays, we want to essentially set we want to set the image style to be larger, more high res images for the double density. We're allowed to do that with the double density picture displays. So you'll see that for the extra large, I'm setting the 2 extra large. For the large, I'm setting the extra large for double density. For medium double density, I'm setting large, so on and so forth, all the way down. And again, the fallback image is always my smallest image style that I've set. And we can see this once I go to some of these, both of these customizations. So I have a teaser and a banner. So let me open up the banner. So you can see that this image is now is scaled and cropped, and it's a little bit less tall, right? It's shorter, less tall. And when I inspect this, I can see that Drupal is building, based on all the configurations that I've just made that you just saw, it's building this picture tag element for me. So here you can start to see in codes those configurations that I've made. So I'm saying when I upload this one single high-res image, Drupal is generating, based on my image styles, images for each of these image styles. So on the top, I have that 2 extra large image, and you can see where it is in the file system, where Drupal made the image and put it in the file system. You can also see that breakpoint that I set in the YAML file here under the media attribute. You can see that all the way down. So you see, oh, and I forgot the pixel density. So you can see the 1x at the end of the source set as well. There's also 2x over here. all the way down to my my fallback image, which is always set as the image tag inside of the picture element. So although you can set straight image fields throughout Drupal, you could also treat media like any other entity in Drupal and essentially create a library. We would then create entity reference fields instead of the straight image fields. Allows us, image fields are then now in the media entities where we can set a view mode, set the responsive image style, and then set the view mode on the entity reference. I'll show you this. So let's get into the configurations to be able to even set these images from all the work that we've done, be able to set all that work into the images themselves. So because I have media and media library enabled as Drupal modules, I now have media entities. So under media types, I have an image media type. I'm just going to click on this here and go to manage display. I've created a view mode per responsive image style. So I have a dynamic full width, fixed banner, fixed teaser, and then I am setting in each of these view modes the image field to be a responsive image, and then setting that to the respective responsive image style that I've created. So if I were to configure this, I have those 3 responsive image styles available to me. Same with fixed banner and fixed teaser. And then from here, in my content type where I'm eventually displaying this image, if I go to manage display, I have several image fields, image field tests that I've already built. So I can see I'm setting the format to rendered entity, and then setting, again, that view mode from the media entity. So view mode, dynamic full width, fixed banner, fixed teaser. I like to name all of these steps accordingly so I don't get confused or cross wires, so that I know that for the teaser image field, I want there to be a teaser responsive image, or banner, dynamic. So then the end result then is what we're seeing on the front end. So we have, again, going back to the teaser, this is formatted in a specific way now. Again, you can see there's a lot less source sets, again, because we only need this image, this teaser image, to get a certain amount of space at any given time. All right. Cool. What we're about to see, what I'm about to show you is an example of a simple image tag that has been placed on a website. Again, you've already seen this, but I'll be running it through performance checks now. As compared to a field set to display as a picture element with all of our image style connections. The responsivity of our picture element allows us to load in specifically sized images based upon the size of the device we are viewing. And this is especially important, again, on mobile devices. When we're using an image tag, you are loading in the same sized image all of the time. Try loading even a 500 kilobyte image on a mobile device. Depending on your cellular connection, Wi-Fi, sometimes this is impossible. Users will not see that image whatsoever. But with the picture tag now, we are now loading in an appropriately sized image for the screen size and cellular network, hard word to say, and that the image is being viewed from. Not only do we get a boost in speed and performance, but search engines see this effort, that we're giving all of our users a better experience, and gives us a boost in searches as well. This will also pave the way for next-gen image formats, which can give you even better scores in the eyes of search engines. So I'm going to compare these two pages. So if I go to the responsive field, I'm sorry, let me go back. Let me open up the image field in a new tab and then open up the responsive field. I'm going to inspect the HTML for this. I'm going to go to my network tab and I'm going to reload. Same for the image field, inspect, network, reload. So I'm going to stay on the network tab here, or I'm going to stay on just the image tag, in our HTML. So you can see here, this is the image, the straight image tag field. And when I go to network, there we go. I am looking for my sloth. There it is. So this sloth image is loading in at 765 kilobytes, which is still pretty big. That is still a pretty big image to be loading onto a website. We want to keep that size as low as possible. When I go to the responsive image, I'm sorry. Let me then go and make this into an iPhone sized. Refresh. You can see the sloth image is still loading 765 kilobytes. When I go to my responsive field test, look for the sloth. Here it's 386 kilobytes. This is a lot better. And again, the image is essentially going through Drupal's image optimization system already, and Drupal will optimize the image just out of the box. So you can see like, why is this different from the image fields? Because we've set image styles for this picture tag, thus we are getting optimized images out of the box from Drupal. But what comes in really handy is when I switch to mobile device or iPhone, or any sort of phone size, I should say. You can now see this sloth image, 34 kilobytes. It's because it's now loading in that breakpoint, the image that I set specifically for this breakpoint, specifically for mobile devices. This now will give you performance gain. Mobile users will be able to see this image clearly. It'll load fast. A lot of benefits here. Great. All right, so through the Drupal media management system, we've now built in a way for Drupal to build a responsive picture element for us, all while only needing to upload one single high-resolution image. We then unlock a way of loading in a single, appropriate to the size of the device it's being viewed from, image from a set of images that had been created for us by Drupal. With all of this in place, it now takes a fraction of time and resources to display an image within any given situation, mobile, desktop, tablet, etc. Search engines also like Google also see these picture tags and appropriate responsiveness as important. And for those of you who do not know about Lighthouse scores specifically have a separate report for the mobile experience. And if your images are not optimized, then that can negatively affect scoring. Lighthouse is a Google tool to run reports on your website regarding speed, efficiency, SEO. There's a whole bunch that is included with the Lighthouse scores. So I'm going to do mobile, analyze page load. So this is going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. So it's going to load in the website into Google, analyze the page, and output our score essentially. And it'll give us specifics about the score. So if I'm not going to go too deep into this, but let's compare this to just the straight image field here. Oh, I did desktop, cancel, sorry. Mobile, analyze. So this score should show up a little bit better. Mind you, we are focusing solely on images. Lighthouse has numerous amounts of data that it outputs for us. You can see some of the scores, or the scores on the responsive side. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, performance is 61. So the performance got a boost. Everything else, again, we're not worried about everything else. In this example, we're just concerned with the image and the image's performance. So we got a little bit of boost there. All right. So, and this is just the start. It's an important stepping stone towards fully optimizing your website's media. Um, the the next steps would include image cropping, next gen image formats, lazy loading, all of which I can talk for days about separately, and I actually have separate presentations about, so stay tuned. There's more to come. Well, what I would want to know from the audience, what do you want to learn about next? Image cropping, next gen image formats, lazy loading, or all of the above? And I'd love to hear your feedback. I've also put together some sources that help me put together this presentation. All the knowledge, the Tuts Plus and Drupal itself, Drupal.org has a whole page on responsive images and how to set everything up there.